This is the Poco X3 NFC and this is the Redmi 10. Both phones cost approximately $200. Another price, you get 6 gigs of RAM for the Poco X3 NFC and 64 gigs of storage, whilst you get 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage. Now the Poco X3 NFC was released in 2020 whilst the Redmi 10 was released a year later. But it looks like the phone which was released earlier on in 2020 is better in almost every way than the Redmi 10. For example, in the box, you get a 33 watts fast charging adapter for the Poco X3 NFC, whilst you get an 18 watts fast charging adapter for the Redmi 10. In terms of design, the phones look very different from each other. The Poco X3 NFC doesn't look like any other Android phone on the market today when you look at the camera bump. Where they are both similar though is that both of them have shiny backs which are plastic, and so they attract a lot of fingerprints. So you're going to get a lot of smudges on the devices, as you can see clearly on your screen. And so you need to put on the clear plastic case which was added in the box for both phones. The Poco X3 NFC though is slightly taller than the Redmi 10. The Poco X3 also feels way heavier than the Redmi 10. I don't know if it's because of the larger battery or bigger speakers, but you will definitely feel it once you hold both phones. Both phones have a 3.5mm port, infrared ports for controlling your TV, air conditioner and more, and both phones also have a side-mounted fingerprint sensor embedded in the power button. Now another place where the Poco X3 NFC is way better than the Redmi 10 is in terms of the display. The Poco X3 NFC has a slightly taller, bigger screen than the Redmi 10. And guess what? The Poco X3 NFC has 120Hz refresh rate, while the Redmi 10 has a 90Hz refresh rate. The Poco X3 NFC has Corning Gorilla Glass 5, which helps to increase drop and shatter protection and scratch protection, like when you put your phone in your bag with your keys and coins and stuff like that. It doesn't scratch easily, whilst the Redmi 10 has Corning Gorilla Glass 3. Also, the colors on the Redmi look a bit washed out to me. Like when I'm using it and I'm watching content on YouTube, the colors look a bit washed out. They don't look very natural at all. Next, let's take a look at the batteries of both phones. The Redmi 10 comes with a 5000 mAh battery, whilst the Poco comes with 5160 mAh. So it's slightly bigger than the Redmi 10. Also has a faster charging. And guess what? The good thing about both phones is because they have larger batteries, you can actually use them as power banks to charge your iPhones. I have a tutorial on how to use any Android phone to charge your iPhone in the description below, so do make sure to check it out. Now both really make good use of their batteries, and when you're not using high refresh rate, these phones will easily last you a full day of heavy use. Okay, so next we are going to look at the storage and RAM options of both devices. This phone, which is the Redmi 10, comes in either 4 or 6 gigs of RAM, whilst the Poco X3 NFC comes in either 6 or 8 gigs of RAM. You get 64 gigs or 128 gigs of storage on the Redmi 10, whilst you get 64 gigs or 128 gigs on the Poco X3 NFC. Now the good thing is both phones come with expandable storage, but the Redmi 10 comes with a dedicated SD card storage slot, right? So the Poco, you need to decide whether you're using 2 SIMs and no SD card or 1 SIM and an SD card. So this has an advantage over the Poco when it comes to expandable storage options. However, the storage type of the Redmi 10 is a type of storage called eMMC, and I explained all that in my full review of the Redmi 10, so I'm going to leave a link in the description. But in summary, what it means is that in terms of reading and writing onto the hard disk, this is slower than that of the Poco. The Poco uses UFS 2.1, which is way faster. So you're going to get better performance from the Poco X3 NFC than you're going to get on the Redmi 10, just because of the type of storage. Not even looking at the fact that the Poco also has a Snapdragon 732G processor, which is a really good gaming processor, whilst the Redmi 10 uses a MediaTek Helio G88 processor, which is a 12nm processor. Not very efficient at performing everyday tasks and not very efficient at battery consumption. So now let's look at the cameras. The Poco X3 NFC comes with a 64 megapixel main camera, whilst the Redmi 10 comes with a 50 megapixel camera, right? But what do these numbers mean? In real life, the Poco X3 NFC and the Redmi 10 performance are almost the same, but when it comes to recording videos, the Poco X3 NFC has electronic image stabilization, which the Redmi 10 doesn't have. So if you want to like vlog with the Redmi 10, you're going to have a lot of shaky footage unless you get a gimbal or some sort of stabilizer, but you can get more stable footage on the Poco X3 NFC. You get a 13 megapixel ultra wide lens on the Poco X3 NFC, whilst you get an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens on the Redmi 10. Both of them are really good, have good dynamic range, take good shots, and I'm going to be showing you video samples very soon. Now, in terms of video, the Redmi 10 is able to shoot only 1080p 30 frames per second on the selfie camera and the back cameras, while the Poco X3 NFC can actually shoot 4K 30 frames per second or 1080p 30 or 120 frames per second, which is really good. So in terms of camera too, the Poco X3 NFC is way better than the Redmi 10. So if you only have $200 to buy a phone, I would recommend that you go for the Poco X3 NFC and not the Redmi 10. The Redmi 10 looks more modern, more, you know, stylistic, but I prefer the Poco X3 NFC because it has better performance, bigger batteries, bigger RAMs, better cameras. It's better in almost every way, the screen and all that. Let me know your comments in the Let me know your thoughts in the comments, you know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which phone do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're new to my channel, I do mobile phone reviews, mobile app reviews, and I bring to you affordable gadget reviews to help you make an informed decision when you're making your next purchase. So if you like that kind of content, please click on the subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you do not miss any episode. Thanks, baby. Okay, so this is the selfie camera preview of the Poco X3 NFC and the Redmi 10. This is the Poco X3 NFC. Let me know your thoughts on it versus this, which is the Redmi 10. Already from here, I can see the colors of the Redmi 10 look very funny. They are not very natural. The Poco X3 NFC looks more natural, way better than the Redmi 10. Yeah. Okay, so this is the video you get from the back camera of the Poco X3 NFC and the Redmi 10. Okay, so this is using the main shooter, and I'm shooting 1080p for both videos at 30 frames per second. Let me know which one is better in terms of dynamic range if I point to like where the sun is in the clouds and everything, as opposed to the surroundings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Generally, I think the Poco X3 NFC handles dynamic range way better than that of the Redmi 10, but do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments. Like I said, the Redmi 10 does not have any form of image stabilization when recording videos, so you're going to get a very jerky footage. So you need to get a stabilizer if you want to use it to create vlogs and content. Thanks, baby.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn.